This is the MVP podcast where we talk to the most valuable people in sports. Today, our MVP is Usama Mujtaba, who is the head strength and conditioning coach for the Toronto Argonauts of the Canadian Football League. He's also an entrepreneur. He runs a private, exclusive training camp in Tampa, Florida, and he's got a clothing line. This guy is motivated, came all the way over from England, and he told us how he went from being an engineer to being a coach for the pros. This is one of the best episodes we've done yet, so make sure you tap in and take notes.
If you enjoyed that, make sure you hit the like button, hit that subscribe button, and don't forget to share this with a friend. Without further ado, here is our conversation with Usama.
First of all, where did you come from before you were doing this, and what's your background?
I moved here in 2018 from England. A lot of people think the accent's the same as New Zealand and Australian. I'm here to tell you it's not. But professionally, my background is actually, man, it's true. I'm telling you, a lot of people think that I'm from New Zealand. I don't know what it is. But yeah, professionally, my background is I actually studied engineering at university. So I started university in 2013, graduated with a master's in engineering in 2018. While I was doing that, I kind of found strength and conditioning through actually playing. I'm going to call it American football because when I say football, people think I mean soccer.
It's because you have the accent.
Yeah, I found it through. That's it. It's because of the New Zealand accent. So I found American football pretty much as soon as I got there. Like I'd started going to the gym and I just wanted to do something that involved hitting people. Prior to that, I hadn't done anything like that. So I found American football, absolutely fell in love with the sport. While I was there, though, one of the things I wanted to do was just work to make myself a better athlete. So I hit up the head strength and conditioning coach, Simon Vardy. Shout out to him because he's the one that got me started with all of this. I hit him up and I just said, look, I want to make myself more athletic. So what can I do? And he said, rather than, teaching you you can do that for yourself, why don't I teach you how you can do it for an athlete in general? So he taught me how to do what's called a needs analysis. He taught me the basics of training athletes. And at the time, he needed help as an intern. So he needed an intern. I was interested to learn. Kind of worked out as a perfect relationship. I ended up getting a few qualifications. And while I was studying, I found that I was spending more time in the weight room and strength and conditioning environment than I was in class. So it ended up being that engineering kind of was getting in the way of me becoming a strength and conditioning coach and not the other way around. So it's commonly known that in engineering, you have about 25 contact hours, which means that you're in class or with a professor or whatever for 25 hours a week, which for a student is, a decent amount of class hours. Second to fourth year, I probably spent about 2 hours a day in class. I was in the weight room. I was learning strength and conditioning morning to afternoon. And then in the evening after practice is when I would go and study just to make sure, I was going to pass my exams and stuff. But, it all worked out. I passed with a good degree. I've got a really good understanding of biomechanics, which helps me train athletes to be fast now. And I honestly, quite often, whenever I've had an interview, people will ask me or tell me at least that engineering isn't going to help in this field. You need a kinesiology background. And I think quite the opposite. Engineering has helped me. It's a very tough course. It's helped me with a lot of critical thinking that you need to be a strength and conditioning coach. It's helped me kind of attack things from a nuanced basis and also from a biomechanical perspective. I just know biomechanics really well because of what I studied. So
yeah, and the human body is a machine, and so it's governed by all the rules of physics, and there's certain mental models or frameworks that you learn in the scientific study that you did in engineering that definitely apply to what's going on here. But what sport did you play before you discovered American football? Because obviously you had an itch. You said you wanted to get out there and hit something.
Yeah, man. So for us, we kind of grew up in a very academic family. So sports were very much seen as a hobby that you did to keep yourself active. But beyond that, not really something that you could excel at. But I just found I loved being outside playing sport. I'd do anything and everything. I was kind of in school, I was a little bit of a jack of all trades and master of none. So I was solid at every sport, but not excellent at any sport. But the ones I played, soccer, I say soccer now, I'm sorry to my English brethren. I know I mean football.
It's like nails on a
I
chalkboard
played
for them.
soccer. Oh, I'm telling you, yeah, they hate it. They also think I've got an American accent right now, which is weird, but yeah. I played soccer, played cricket, basketball a little bit. Again, like I said, I was a jack of all trades, master of none, so I was solid, but not great at any of them. Went to university in England. Football or American football isn't really that big. So it's something that is an entry-level sport, even at university. You can kind of just walk on and play. There's some universities that do scholarships, but outside of that, you can literally just walk on and play. I didn't start in my first year, so a lot of my first year was just spent training, trying to get to the point where they would see me as someone that, could benefit the team. And through that training, through that kind of trying to figure it out for other athletes, including myself, I ended up just finding that obviously, one, I was hitting harder, I was able to sprint faster, all of that stuff. But two, I just enjoyed being in the weight room. Like seeing, teammates hit PRs, seeing everybody get more athletic, that was just so much fun to me that it found I was waking up every day to do that, not study for engineering. I was waking up every day to study for strength and conditioning.
Yeah. So as a strength and conditioning coach, you see athletes that come to you from all different kinds of backgrounds, some who train hardcore gym rats, some who probably don't have the greatest habits. But what are some of the core building blocks that you have to put in place? As a coach, you got to build the program that a lot of people fall into. So how do you take that from what you would normally do one-on-one and make that for like an entire team of people?
Right. I think the benefit of one-on-one is obviously you have a little bit more of a personal relationship with this individual. So anything you say to keep them accountable, it's understood that, there's a trust there. Like this person, I'm paying to make me better. I've got to trust what they're trying to say. And I think the biggest challenge going from a one-on-one or private setting to a team setting, like the Argonauts, for example, it was just building that trust, because you get people coming from all walks of life everywhere around, not just the States and Canada, but also the globe now, because the CFL is becoming more and more a global game. You got to find a way to, build that trust right from the beginning, because fundamentally training is training. Like the simple stuff works and everybody knows it, but the trust factor impacts how it's applied. You could do a squat, but done at the wrong time, it might be detrimental. Like it's as simple as that. So the trust thing is huge, and getting the players, athletes, whatever team I've worked with in the past, getting them to trust that, I really do live for this. That's the biggest thing. Because once they see that you care as much as they do, it's very easy to, keep each other accountable.
Yeah, and that energy is transferred a lot of times. A strength coach, because they work with every different person on the team, they have a different role where it's almost partially therapy, partially counseling, partially making them stronger. What do you think about that? Do you feel you also have a role in building the culture and the identity of a team in a way?
Well, like I said, I had a lot of practice not being great at any one thing growing up, right? You got to be a jack of all trades. I had to be that when I was growing up in the sports and the roles that I played, whatever. Being a strength and conditioning coach is just that. It's a jack of all trades, You got to find a way that outside of your job, you got to be a really good generalist. Like maybe an athlete isn't always willing to talk to the mental performance coach or sports psychologist, but they do need some help. So simple things that you can do. One of the things that I do with some athletes, if I feel like they need it, is if they're going through a tough time up top, we'll do simple things like, hey, how's the weather? They know what that means is, hey, how are you doing up here? And based on the way they communicate the weather, that's the way they're doing that day. So sometimes if the weather's like raining or storming, angry, sad, then we'll just change up the workout, give them a different stimulus, have them feel good, and then leave the weight room. So it really is as simple as that. You're absolutely right. You got to be a jack of all trades. Some days on game days, if the video guys need help, I'll throw on a headset and do the iPads for the game and just make sure that the coaches have their film and, getting guys on the phone to talk to the coaches up top. All of that stuff is, you really have to be a generalist, and outside of your role, learn new skills that you can then, impact the team. I think outside of the head coach, the special teams coordinator and myself, there aren't many people in the organization that get to address the team as a whole. So if you're that person and you've been blessed to be put in that position, being a generalist, being able to relate to everybody is huge for getting them to understand that, you are a vital part of that culture, and they can come to you for what they need, not just workouts.
So did you ever feel that opportunity was bigger than you thought you were ready for? Because you're a guy who doesn't have the traditional background. You came into an opportunity from an internship and worked your way up through, now mind you, sweat equity and tons of hours and actually getting the reps and whatnot. But then you're in front of a professional sports team addressing the group, and they're looking to you for direction. Do you ever feel like that moment was like almost too big?
Honestly, I don't think any coach in any capacity can say they haven't had imposter syndrome at one point or another. I think definitely there's times where, even now, to be honest, I'm looking at the team, I'm looking at the opportunities I've been blessed with that I worked for, but I'm really sitting there being like, do I know what I'm talking about right now? Like, it afflicts all of us. I think in every career that's applicable, that whenever you're at that opportunity where you've been grinding and working for that opportunity, you finally get it. You kind of look down and you're like, yo, am I really here? Like, do I even deserve to be here? I think the points where that's affirmed is, when you say or do something that helps another athlete out, one individual or the team, whatever. And then you start to realize, no, you know what? I have been put here for a purpose, to work the sweat equity, like you said. It's come. I've been through everything I've been through for a reason, and everybody I met along the way kind of helped me with that. I was blessed while I was at university to be able to become the captain of the team. So I had an early leadership role in my second year. I was able to speak to the guys before, after the game, everything like that. That really helped me with public speaking. While I was in university, I attended multiple public speaking workshops because I knew I wanted a leadership role in something. I didn't know what it was at the time because I was studying engineering. I thought it was going to be engineering. And then in my final year, I actually ended up leading that same public speaking workshop after 2 years of attending. So I was now the one doing, the Toastmasters version of whatever we were doing at the University of Sheffield. So I learned how to speak in a public setting in front of people through that. And then the person I ended up interning with for the Argonauts was Shea Pierre. I mean, we both know him. That guy is live on the camera. Like, he knows how to talk to people, how to bring the energy. This guy is basically an endless, bottomless cup of caffeine. Do you know what I mean? And learning how to do that, even when I know how much he was going through, with life, with business, everything like that at the time I was working with him. Learning that there is a switch that you can flick, that when he's at home now, super chill dude, doesn't really do much, doesn't really say much, just really chill guy. But when he's out in front of people, all of a sudden that switch flicks. When I realized that there was a switch that you can flick, I just had to find it in myself. And, you've met Rachel, my wife, she'll tell you the same thing. I'm super chill when I'm at home. I have a battery. I use it every day. I absolutely empty the bucket. Then I get home, I relax, recharge. I'm myself.
Yeah. And you got to perform, like, and anything you're doing, you're performing. But it's crazy you had the foresight to understand there's the technical skills. You have to understand, like, how the body works, what exercise to do at what time, like you said. But then there's other complementary skills that are more general, like public speaking. Public speaking is for anybody who wants to lead in anything. I don't care what you do. You could be like sales, you could be in marketing, you could be a teacher, you could be a coach, you could be whatever. If you have a great idea and you can't communicate it to people, whether that's a small group or a large group, is you're gonna have a hard time. So where did you have where did you get the idea to just work on your public speaking? Like, did somebody recommend that to you, or you just knew that there was something that you needed to have in your tool belt regardless of where you're going?
Well, so one of my best friends, like even to this day, he was originally the guy who started that public speaking workshop at the university. So originally, I really just went to support my friend. And it turned into something where I was like, yo, I need this. Like, if I'm going to be a leader on the field in my life, whatever, I need this. There's so much that I think I know about public speaking. And then I get up, because every session we would get up and do a 1 minute speech on a topic, random topic. Just have to pick it, prepare it, boom, 1 minute speech. And you would get scored on things like not pausing to have a thought, using connectives kind of in abundance without any sort of necessity. You would get scored down for that stuff. So kind of from that early age, while I was in university, I figured out that actually, I think I know how to speak in front of people, but you need training, just like anything. You need training. So I'm grateful to get that training. I'm grateful that I had a lot of people along the way that helped me with that. I also worked, one of the first jobs I worked when I moved to Canada was in sales of strength and conditioning. So it's just calling people up. And you call someone up, they're not having the right time of day. Hey, how's it going? Beep, beep, beep. Next call, you got to go right to it. And just being able, like I said, turn that switch on and off. Yeah, it's a skill. And if you don't develop it, it's not very helpful in life. You got to develop that.
Did sales help you as an entrepreneur and as just a professional in general? I feel like sales is amazing character development because you get hung up on so many times. But tell me about your time selling stuff. What was that like?
So it was selling programs that honestly, man, like I don't really, still to this day, I don't believe in. I didn't believe in any of the programs I was selling.
Wow.
So to try to sell something that you don't believe in because your rent needs to be paid is the most soul destroying experience I can, like, oh my word, I was coming home. Talk about imposter syndrome. I was coming home every day with imposter syndrome. Now, I think the thing that helps me kind of in the entrepreneur stuff that I do on the side, I've got two businesses actually, 5-Fold Performance, and then shout out to Feed the Fam as well. It's a clothing brand that myself and Kian Schaefer-Baker, wide receiver at SAS, designed. But when you believe in something, it's so much easier to sell. And that's, I think, the first thing is once you find your passion, and if that's, requires you to be entrepreneurial about it, as long as you believe in it, it's a lot easier to sell, in my personal opinion. But
100%.
You're absolutely right. Like, I think one of the things that I learned in that job was the amount of rejection that it takes. You're going to be rejected over and over and over again, and you got to attack the next phone call with the same energy as the first one, even though this is the 100th one and you're on your way out the door in 5 minutes because it's time to go home. Like, the energy that you need to be able to continuously do that, it's not dissimilar from coaching an athlete that doesn't want to do an exercise. You need energy for one client or athlete, same energy for the next one. Different type, but same energy. And you got to take that into everything you do because, otherwise you're not going to survive in this world, to be honest with you. So, like I said, I do think it's a switch, and I learned how to flick that switch on and off through that job.
No, that's true. That's what a true pro does too, because that's what players would do. In practice, you got to practice like a pro. There's a time to go full speed. There's a time to go at a walking tempo. And there's a time to focus on the small details. And there's a time for just pure, raw, all out energy. Don't make it clean. Just do it to the max. So yeah, you got to have that switch, that trigger. But I want to talk about Feed the Fam. Where'd that name come from, and what's that represent? How'd you guys even begin that? Tell me the story of that clothing line.
Yeah, so Feed the Fam actually happened. It was born around the same time I met you, probably just before actually. So I was training in Kian for his, if anybody doesn't know, number 89 Saskatchewan Rough Riders. I was training Kian for his combine and with Shay. And I was in charge of like the lifting stuff, broad jump, vertical, all of that good stuff. And we were just benching one day, and we always spoke about, hey, how one day this football thing is going to lead to an opportunity where you're going to be able to buy your mum a house. Like that was a goal of his going into combine training. Like, yes, I want to be a pro athlete. Yes, I want to be the best, but I want to buy my mum a house. So we kind of made that the central concept behind everything that we did in our training. And I remember one day we're 2.5 hours into this bench workout and he's still benching. And we're both exhausted. Neither of us wants to be there. So we play Blue Laces by Nipsey Hussle. And I just yell as I'm like basically breaking the speakers with that music. And I just yell, come on, man, feed your family. And then it just became a thing that if either of us was tweaking in a workout, if I was tweaking as the coach or he was tweaking as the athlete, if you were not given 100%, it was a mantra that you would just recenter the whole reason why you're doing this. And it's like feed the family. If I don't give my 100% effort right now, if I don't give everything I've got right now, how can I at the end of the day or the end of the month, end of the year, say that I truly did everything, and I mean everything, to feed my family? I can't. And your family can be your best friend, your family can be your mom, your family can be your wife, your kids, whatever. But man, if you're not giving it everything you got, I don't know that you can go and say that you feed the fam. So we actually don't let anyone buy this. Like you got to request to buy this, and these are made to order. Because this, when you buy this, it's a contract. You sign in a contract that you're giving everything you got. If you're not about that life, it's okay. You can go buy a Nike hoodie.
Yo, that is wicked. I like that. That's dope. So yeah, that's like a badge of honor too. And you know what? You got to have it in you. It's got to be in you. It's either you got a competitive spirit, you don't back down and you like to dig in when it gets tough, or you just quit. Like there's only two kind of people in those types of situations, and that's what it takes to really get to the highest level. So talking about that, there's a lot of guys you put together, you curated a group of, folks trying to feed the fam. And with that Tampa group, tell me a little bit about that, because you put together a few elite athletes, and then it grew and it grew. So tell me about the Tampa training sessions you do in the off season and how that started.
Yeah, man. So, first thing is I appreciate all the ones that came on the first one with me, because that was one of those where this was around January time, and we're in Canada. Obviously, the number one thing that stops people from coming to Canada for the off season is in the winter is what? The winter, because it's awful. Let's just be real, right? Now we have an indoor place where we could train and everything, we could do speed work, and it's great now, but it wasn't then. Like we were shoveling snow just to get out on the field to go do some sprints. And these are pro athletes. So we just said, you know what? Let's go and try to feel like pro athletes. Let's go somewhere hot. Let's just get out of this weather and let's just go and train and feel like what it feels like to do 2 a days, 3 a days, whatever in the off season. So it gets to about mid-February, and myself, S.A. Mabure, who's now retired from the CFL, Kian, Dejon Brissett, Josh Haggerty. If I'm forgetting anybody else, guys, forgive me. But there was about 6 guys on that trip, and that was it. That we just kind of all looked at each other and were like, yo, let's go to Tampa for a week, see what's cooking up there, or down there at least. We all booked our flights, went down. There's a guy by the name of Chris Barnard. He's got, a huge following on Instagram, great strength and conditioning coach, overtime athletes down in St. Petersburg in Florida, about 40 minutes away from Tampa. So I reached out to them. I said, hey, I got a group of 6 pro athletes. We'd love to come down and just kind of work out in your gym and just chop it up with you. I got an email back from the general manager of the club, so not Chris Barnard himself, but Chris was there when we went down there. And while we were there, we were just training. So we would do beach workouts, field workouts, run routes, whatever, and then go to the gym and have a weightlifting session. While we were there, I met Chris. He kind of walked down the steps. I introduced myself to him. For reference, Chris Barnard is someone that I've been wanting to meet, since I was a youth athlete, because since I was a youth athlete, I was looking at his videos on Instagram on how to train as an athlete. So this was a full circle moment. Like, I told myself I'd be there one day, and boom, all of a sudden I'm there. I get to meet him. He's a cool dude, super down to earth. I told him, look, we got 6 this year. Appreciate you letting us use the gym. But next year we're going to have at least double. I'm telling you that right now. And at the time, he's a great guy, but at the time, I don't think he believed me. Like, I'm just being real. This guy from Canada brought a couple of athletes, whatever, right? Next year we pull up. I've been telling everybody, we did the season, everything like that. I've been telling everybody about it. The next year we pulled up with 16 athletes. And me and Chris kind of really developed our relationship then, because I think there was that mutual respect of, like, Chris has been in the game for so long, and he's been doing it for so long at the highest level. He's got some guys in the NFL, CFL, all over, MLB too. That once that second year rolled around, there was this nice, like, mutual respect where it was like, man, I'm here to learn from you. So please, if you don't mind, train these guys in 1-2 sessions. They'll learn from you too. I'll learn. But altogether, we can really build a culture of bringing people down and showing them kind of what training for football really should be like. So that second year, he ran us through a couple of sessions. It was awesome, dope. We had another great. But that's when we had video. So I can't underestimate the power of marketing, right? Like, the moment we brought a videographer down, that's when things changed, because then everybody started to see it for what it was, because videographers can do something amazing, which is capture the real essence of the culture behind what you're trying to do, something that your iPhone camera just can't capture. So we brought a videographer down, started advertising it. Next thing you know, this was this year in February, we had 26 guys, 40 guys originally. It whittled down to 26 because of availability and stuff. But we had 26 guys coming through to this Tampa trip. It was the best one yet, man. Like, every single person on that trip attributes, like, the best week of their off season to that week. Guaranteed. You can go and ask all 26 of them. And it started with just, hey, we want to go and try to promote the culture. And now we got guys that, live and breathe Canadian football, are the center of Canadian football, that come on that trip, like Alonzo Adai, like Clark Barnes, Kean Schaefer-Baker. We got so many guys like that are just coming down now and, really experiencing the culture. And the goal is to eventually just continue to elevate that, because the more we can do, people need to realize that great training it's here, it's in Canada. You don't have to be somewhere hot just to go get it. We go somewhere out just to let you know who we are. That's all we do.
Yeah. And so you're making an impact, and it started out, intern, got an opportunity, went somewhere, had an impact, expanded that outside of just the group that you were given, and went and found other people who wanted to come follow. So you're doing it at a very high level right now, and you're making an impact outside of just, your local area. For you, what kind of goals do you have? I know you're a very, like, mentally, you're tapped in, like, you, even just listening to your stories, you think about how you could be your best. You got things that are driving you, but, like, what's your big goal right now, or what's driving you right now?
Man, the thought of hopefully one day having kids, I'll tell you that right now. Trying to make sure that life is secure for them. But yeah, outside of that, kind of professionally, the big goal right now is when I first got the job at the Toronto Argonauts, one of the things that I told the GM that I wanted to do was, prior to that, everybody in that strength and conditioning role at the Toronto Argonauts, and I think in the CFL as well, it's a high turnover league. There was a lot of turnover in that role. And I think it's because maybe people didn't see the potential or future in a strength and conditioning role. So I've got a couple of goals, but professionally, when it comes to pro football CFL, within the CFL, is to try to grow not only the culture of strength and conditioning, but the longevity in that role. So get every team to think about having a sports scientist, get every team to think about having a nutritionist, for example, get everybody to think about what ways can we integrate technology into our practice so that we're not just part of the old school mentalities, which is, run guys into the ground and this, that, and the other. It's really just trying to change the culture of the way we do strength and conditioning there. Outside of that, kind of personally with 5-4 performance, end goal is to have a facility kind of all inclusive and have one within Canada. So it takes care of the winter, which is obviously the reason a lot of, I believe, elite athletes stay away from Toronto and Canada in the winter, is because they have an option to go down south. It's to try to take that option away from them. That if I give you a facility where we have therapy, we have, doctors, we have recovery, we have strength and conditioning, sports science, all of that. So you have the best off season you've ever had. You don't have a choice. If you want to be great, you don't have a choice. You might have to brave the outside for a couple of hours a week, but you'll be indoors most of the time. So that's the end goal with that. And then with Feed the Fam, I think one of the things with clothing in general now is you got to pay an excess amount for luxury clothing, like an excess, because everybody, and it is what it is. It's the way of the world. Cost of living's going up, but everybody's trying to make an insane profit, and rightfully so. Like I said, the world is changing, but the goal of this is to make it affordable luxury, that like you wear this with pride, that it's good quality material, but like make that well known that like Feed the Fam is really, we preach everything that we do everything that we preach. So those are kind of the three goals in the three different avenues of life that I have right now. But yeah,
that's cool. So you deal with a lot of athletes. You see kind of where they're at and where they're trying to go. Myself, I transitioned out of professional football 3 years ago, and sometimes I still feel like, I don't know if the plan I had ended up being what I'm currently doing now.
Right.
It's very tough for a lot of people to make that transition out of sports, but given that you're so close to so many athletes, maybe you see some patterns or you have some advice that you give to those guys. So if anybody's listening and they're playing and they're an athlete, maybe they're in college, maybe they're pro, what kind of game do you have for folks who they're on the train right now, they're playing right now, but we know that doesn't last forever. Like, what would you tell them to do?
It's something I struggled with even just playing university ball, right? And I think it's something every athlete, no matter whether you play football, whether you play volleyball, soccer, whatever, every athlete is going to have a point where their career ends and the next one starts. And it's a really hard pill to swallow, but the advice that I would give is the advice that is going to set you up for life, and that is get financially literate from a young age. I didn't know what line of credit was until I was 26. I had no idea what a line of credit was. I didn't know that you use your credit card to pay for everything and then you pay it back with the balance and that raises your credit. You could get a loan which could help you either build a business or build a life. I had no idea about any of that, and I'm just being completely honest because it's not taught in school. So I think if you're an athlete, especially a college athlete right now, especially down in the NCAA, getting NIL deals and all of that, get smart with your money. Understand that when it comes in, it's not just coming out one for one. When it comes into your bank account, is it growing before it comes out? And how do I grow it is the biggest thing. And there's plenty of resources. I know you're a resource for that too, but that's my biggest thing is, and we do that in the off season too with our guys. We tell them, look, hey, we do little tidbits of like, hey, this is how to get financially literate. Hey, you got thousands and thousands of dollars saved up. What's it doing in your savings account? Go put it in a FHSA or a TFSA. Go do something with that. Because if you don't do something with it right now, eventually that income stream is gonna go down. And if you haven't figured out, unfortunately, that's the way we world in, I think even 20, 30 years ago, you could play in the CFL with the salaries as they were and still be able to afford a house deposit on a house in Toronto. You can't do that anymore. I'm so sorry, but you can't. So what are you doing with your wage, or what are you doing with your hobbies or whatever to diversify and make money out of that? It's tough. It's a tough world that athletes live in nowadays, but the more you can educate yourself on money, the better you'll do.
Yeah. So I'm gonna ask you this concluding question that I ask everybody. Given that you come from far away, I'm interested to see what your answer is to this because there's some popular answers, but who are your three favorite athletes? Any sport, any era.
Any sport, any era. Oh, man, okay. So I have to say, and it's something that I don't think a lot of people would think about me. Number one is Cristiano Ronaldo. And the reason is Cristiano Ronaldo. Up until Cristiano came into the game, athleticism, like general athleticism, power, speed, you talk vertical, all of that, it wasn't talked about in soccer. It was just skill. It's very skill-based sport. Cristiano came and said, hey, you can have all this skill, but you add athleticism to this skill, it's different. And then you get guys like Mbappe. So he really changed the game there. I would say in basketball, my favorite athlete is Michael Jordan. And it wasn't this answer before I figured out actually how much he did for the game outside of basketball in terms of deals with companies, making sure that the players weren't owned by the league, they, owned themselves as an entity. When I realized that, I was like, okay, stats, whatever, he's got it all, but he's the GOAT for that, for starting that trend off and really popularizing it. And then number three, I feel like nowadays this is a answer that everybody gives, but Serena Williams put women's tennis, which honestly, man, I don't think anybody really knew about, on the map. So if you are an athlete that you could put your sport on the map, I don't know, you got to be the GOAT for me.
Yeah, she's cold. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'd like
To do
that.
that everybody knows who Serena Williams is in a sport that is typically not as well advertised as even men's tennis or anything like that. For everybody in the world, you say Serena Williams, you know who she is. That's incredible.
Yeah, I remember in one of her last matches, we were playing a game in Edmonton, and I feel like guys had the tennis match on in the locker room on their phones. So like, yeah, she's cold. Like she's that cold.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, facts.
Osama, I appreciate you taking the time to chop it up, man. Definitely a lot of useful information and insights from a guy who's done a lot, made a lot of himself and for himself. So I appreciate it. Where can people learn more about, Feed the Fam? Where can people tap in with you and follow along with the stuff that you're doing on the internet and stuff like that?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is my Instagram. It's 54 Performance. It's spelled out FIVEFOUR Performance. Pretty easy to find on there. I think that'd be the best way to connect with me. I always try my best that no matter who's trying to connect with me, I always try to get back to them. I don't have infinite opportunities, but if there's something that I can help with, someone that I can connect you with, I absolutely want to do that. I had a few people coming up that helped me out, but a lot of rejection. So I try to not be that one that rejects people. I try to help people coming up. So if you're coming up, you need some advice, something like that, reach out to me. If you want to train, reach out to me. If you want to know more about Feed the Fam, reach out to me at FTF Feed the Fam.
My dog. All right. Appreciate you
Yes,
taking
sir.
the time, man.
Appreciate you, man. Thank you so much for having me. It was a great opportunity.